Timbuktoo is a Pan-African initiative launched by UNDP to essentially amplify the startup ecosystem across the entire continent. It consists of a number of pillars. Those pillars include the hubs which I mentioned, of which there are 11. One here in Addis, the Manutech hub, and then we have 10 others across 10 other different countries. Creatives in Cape Town, health tech in Rwanda, green tech in Kenya, etc., etc. Then in addition to the hubs, we have what we call university innovation pods, where we try to bring together innovation within universities so that universities will become sources of not just startups, but teams of people who are researchers and innovators, of which some of them will feed into our hubs. Here in Addis, we have an AI hub that is specific to the AI space. Our other unipods are agnostic. So whether you're working with electronics or you're working with tailoring or fashion, you could go into these hubs as a student, as a faculty, as a researcher, or just a very brilliant person and come up with ideas. And our hope is that some of those ideas will turn into actual companies or startups that may feed into our hubs. So we're building blended finance vehicles to help fund the ideas and the companies that come through our hubs and unipods. Blended finance meaning that it's a mixture of private, public finance to sort of foster and support the initiatives that come out from the hubs, the startups that come out from the hubs, and the teams of people that come from the unipods as well. We have what we call our policy unit. It's called TPIU because one of the challenges that companies face is that policies within a country or across Africa may not be optimized for their industry. So what we're doing is essentially building out this Pan-African ecosystem with others. We're working with other hubs, other ecosystems to focus on the weaknesses within the existing ecosystem and also focus on verticals that you don't typically find venture capital, you don't find blended finance. And our hope is that over 10 years we'll have invested a measured amount of capital across these various pillars, but also amplified the ecosystem to the worth of at least $10 billion. But that's going to take concerted effort. So we're doing so many things at the same time. We call Timbuktoo a startup itself because we're sort of figuring it out as we go along. The theme of this event, which is about impact on young people, that's right in the wheelhouse of what Timbuktoo is about. It's about creating opportunity, it's about creating jobs, it's about building out sectors of the economy that we don't have enough African companies, manufacturing being one of them, which is what we're doing here in Addis. So yes, we really appreciate being here. We would like to have more people ask us questions about what we're doing. We've moved from the idea, the thinking, for example, here in Addis, we have our Manutech cohort. When I say cohort, it's a bunch of startups going from incubation to acceleration. What that means is if they're in the acceleration phase, they're now growing as a company, they have revenues, and our Manutech cohort is actually, as we speak, in that process. So now that it's become live, it's become real, we think it will be even more interesting to people because it's no longer just an idea, it's something that is tangible, that people can taste, they can see, they can touch, and it makes it very relevant. After 10 years or even before the 10 years is up, we'll have big growing African companies that can employ lots of people and are not just looking at the African space. Action for me is there are 20 African companies making shoes or glasses or making products for an aeroplane. And I think people will understand that if we do more of those very practical things. And I think it will help events like this even become more practical. Without knowledge, you can't build. Without knowledge, you can't create value. Without knowledge, you can't compete with the rest of the world. And we need to convert knowledge into activity. We need to convert knowledge into value. We need to convert knowledge into companies that are competitive globally. So we need to move from talking to action. And by moving from talking to action, we put ourselves in a place where if a company comes from Djibouti, why are they not competing with a company from Thailand? So then knowledge is valuable when it moves from this esoteric thing over here to something that creates the chair I'm sitting on, or the watch you have on your hand, or the lamp she has in her hand. So that's really what's going to create value for Africans, the ability to create wealth. So yes, knowledge is the foundation, but we need to move that knowledge into these valuable spaces with products and services. My hope is this is part of what this event is doing. You know, I look at the leather booth over there and I ask myself, well, why don't we have Ethiopian luxury houses? You know, why don't we have Ethiopian companies that are going toe to toe with LVMH? You know, so for me, that's the knowledge, the value, and the product. We need more of these kinds of events.